John, back to the hydroplane races,
Yes.
Tri-Cities. This does not happen every single year, but there is a house currently for sale with probably one of the best course views. Puts you front and center right in the action of the hydroplane races.
Let me guess, it's up on Canal.
Well, no, it's even closer to the course. It's on the Pasco side off of River Haven, currently active listing, listed by Redder & Company, Sotheby's, and it's 4114 River Haven Street. How much, John, do you think? I'll give you the square footage. Big house, 6,700 square feet, not updated, but how much do you think it's going to cost here in Tri-Cities to get you front and center at the hydroplane races?
I'm going to say 1.1.
Well, you're not close. So your streak has ended today of knowing everything. This is why you leave the real estate to me, John.
Okay.
1.1 is off. That house is currently listed at $2 million.
Ooh.
Actually, $1,999,990 to be exact.
Okay.
$2 million, 6,700 square feet. I'm not sure. It's got a pool. It's got a gorgeous, gorgeous view. It is one of those just iconic waterfalls. If you wanted to throw a big waterfalls party every year, this would be the place to do it at. However, I think it needs a little bit of remodeling. So, construction there, 1983. And I'm going to walk out on a limb here and say some of the bedrooms do still look like 1983 wallpaper. But if you want, this is where we're going to talk a little bit today about getting on the water and what it takes to build on the water and some of the considerations. Interestingly enough, there is in all of Lower Columbia Basin, if I go Prosser, Benton City, Burbank, Tri-Cities, there are only 21 waterfront properties listed out of, roughly 1,300 listings. So a very, very small percentage. So that one I just mentioned to you is one of the most expensive. So let's go the opposite, John. What do you think in that Lower Columbia Basin? What do you think is the cheapest property that I could get you on the water for?
$500,000.
Oh, you almost nailed it. So the cheapest that I can get you on the water right now is in Prosser. It's $475,000 as opposed to watching the hydroplanes for $2 million.
It's on the Yakima.
And yep, you absolutely nailed it. It's on the Yakima in Prosser, 1425, also aptly named. I think the last listing was named River Haven. This is on Riverside. So Riverside Drive in Prosser, $475,000. That gets you a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, built in 1974. And that has been on the market, new listing. That's only been on the market about a week. But I will tell you another significant remodel. I think we see that a lot of times. People kind of build these legacy dream home properties right on the water, iconic locations. They're there for that duration of their lifetime, and then we see a lot of these come up as estates.
Yes.
I will say, I think the reason why so many of these end up being estates is because once you move to the water, we have limited water availability.
Yep.
A lot of those people end up staying for a long time. You don't necessarily see a lot of these houses turn over very often.
Yeah.
So that kind of runs the gamut of the 21 waterfront properties currently active and available. The cheapest one, $475,000 in Prosser on the Yakima. The most expensive one, also on the Yakima, but built in 2002, 7,000 square feet, currently on the market for $3 million. Impressive property, large property. but also at the same time, $3 million. So, and then 3 of those properties are lakefront, not riverfront.
Okay.
And you're like, wait, we don't have lakes here. But we do. So if you around Tri-Cities, there are actually in West Richland, there are lakes. So there are some man-made lakes there.
Okay.
And then we list waterfront in our MLS as golf course. So some of the golf course properties, Canyon Lakes and those.
I was thinking, are you trying to sell me a house that's up on the potholes in Grant County?
No.
Fishing.
And so, yeah, so not a lot of opportunity. And so one of the things you look at is what does, why are there so few of these properties that overturn, and what happens? And much like many of things in real estate, the first thing that we look at is not necessarily the actual structures themselves, but this is one of those emotional reasons people buy. So people are naturally drawn to, they love the water.
Yep.
They love the view. If you're looking to not have a rear house neighbor, because you look at a lot of our developments and a lot of those lots, unless you're back up to open space or back up to like a preserve or another property that has view corridors in it. When you're doing that, people either love the fact that there is the water or the view, and then also they feel like it's open because they don't have a backyard neighbor.
Yeah. One
of the biggest questions we get, people will come to us and they'll be like, hey, I would really like, I just came into town. I was driving over the bridges, and I would really like one of those houses with the dock on the river. And so in real estate, we've all known, and you're like, what state are you from? Let's start there, because in Washington, there's going to be a little bit differences with what you're dealing at with the river. So for instance, all of those docks you see, most of those you see as you cross the bridges in Tri-Cities fall within the McNary Shoreline Plan. That McNary Shoreline Plan is controlled by the Army Corps of Engineers. And so what a lot of people don't realize is that first roughly 30 feet of the shoreline, those houses that border that, you do not own that. So your property line does not go below that line. So there are very distinct markers out there where that stops.
The feds.
Yeah, correct. And so those docks that are attached to that are operating under a permit. So they have a dock permit. So when someone comes in and says, well, gosh, I buy that house and I see that there's no dock, I can just put a dock in. This is what people from other states think when they arrive. And you're like, no, please do not purchase this house under the guise that is what is going to happen. There are also very distinct rules about homes with older docks. So you might be buying a home that has an older dock that is now out of compliance with those guidelines. For instance, the grading on the dock has to allow 50% light filtration through for habitat, for fish. And so there's all of these different things that they have to think about. And if that dock does not meet those standards, you do not upgrade it to those standards with an ownership change within the term actually is 5 years, you're going to be out of compliance and then risk losing that dock permit overall. And with there only being 100 available, they're full. Like there aren't any more to get. So if you don't get that done or you don't do that upgrade, that's going to go to, and they have a huge waiting list that they'll never get to. So if you don't get that done, that's going to go to somebody else on the
their waiting list is longer than trying to get season tickets in Lambeau Field in Green Bay.
Yes, absolutely.
It's generational. I've looked.
So there are things that you've got to consider with that. So what that does, though, I will tell you, is that allows us to put a calculation on what the homes with a dock are worth. And so there's actually a dollar value. If you go back and look at the last 5 to 7 years of comps, you can go back and you can say, okay, similar type of homes on the rivers with docks sold for X number of dollars. Ones without that were very close sold for this. And so you can put a price tag on roughly what those dock permits are worth. And it's substantial. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in that situation. And it fluctuates a little bit year to year, but it's gotten worse the last 4 to 5 years as they have filled up and those permits are full and done in that situation. And they're down to just renewals in those situations. So one of the things you've got to look at is, am I going to have to upgrade? What does that look like? What is the timeline for the permits, if any are available? And then who do I have to contact to walk through that process? We've helped a number of clients go through that process. If somebody's considering that, looking at properties along the river that have docks in those situations, I do encourage you to call, you can send us a contact form, and we can at least go through some firsthand type of information that we've gone through with clients to help in those situations. The other thing to look at is view corridors. A lot of these properties get listed as being riverfront, but they have a park in front of them, or they have a walking path in front of them, or they have, in some cases, vacant land. So it comes down to, you need to be very, very careful about what is there and what could potentially be built there. Because if there is something in your view corridor that could be built, you may think that it is impossible for that to get done. But even if you're dealing with like an entity like the cities that are managing those parks, or you're dealing with the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yes.
I mean, they might want to put a new restroom facility up for people at the park to use, right? And trust me, you are not going to have a say in that. I can tell you, you are you. They are the Army, okay? Like, so you're not going to have a say in what happens in those situations. So when people are purchasing and there is vacant land behind them, I'm always very, very suspect of that and approach that with a massive amount of caution. Now, a lot of people, they go ahead and buy. Nothing ever gets built there, and it's no big deal. But I've got enough of the horror stories where something like that was built, and then it definitely affects their view corridor. So,
in fact, on the Pasco side, and I'm dating myself, back in the 70s and even the early 80s, they didn't have the sidewalks and everything. It was all just, you could drive your cars down and park right next to the river because there was that space between the property owners and the water. And then the city went in and developed it.
100%. That is a very good. And for some people, that's a bonus. Some people are like, oh my gosh, there's this beautiful walking path that I get on and I can use every day and ride my bikes. Other purchasers are like, oh my gosh, I've never seen another human there and I love my life. Now I see 80 freaking people walking by every day. And so once again, preference of the purchaser is a huge, huge thing when there's vacant properties behind you. There's another good example of this is not just waterfront, but apartment development. There's been a number of apartment developments recently in all three of the cities, Kennewick, Richland, Pasco, and naturally they border single-family residential neighborhoods. And some of the ones on the fringe of that neighborhood, all of the sudden a 3-story building goes up and then their view's blocked. And so buying on the fringes of the neighborhoods can be awesome because you don't have any rear neighbor. But then once they finally do get developed, and the bigger we get, the more these pockets get filled in, view corridors become a huge, huge issue.
And privacy, the apartments behind Winco?
Yep.
The ones that many, many years ago partially developed and they mysteriously burned down. And then the new developer, we live right in there.
Okay, yep.
And the people across the street from us, those apartment buildings are 50 feet away, and they don't like people on 3rd looking down into their backyard.
Yeah, you nailed it. That is the exact example that I'm talking about in those situations. So be careful with that too. Another thing to consider in those is vegetation. Like I said, what is the vegetation like down there in front of you? You do not own that property. Okay, so like you cannot go down there and start trimming trees and stuff because once again, this is federal. Okay, you go to prison. Okay,
And we did a story this week. You're not allowed to mow the weeds on the Pasco side in the viewing areas at the boat races.
Oh, you did it. I didn't even see that story. You did a story about
People used to take lawnmowers down there the week before. Okay, this is where our booth is going to be. We paid for a booth. Right. They'd go down and mow it, and they go, wait. Yeah, you do. You can't, even if it's a foot tall, you can't touch it.
You don't control those habitat decisions in that situation. So just a couple of the things. Gosh, that's great, John. I didn't even see that article. I love how prepared you are today. But the other thing about it as we wrap up here is that buying on the waterfront can be an amazing experience because, like I said, there's a scarcity with those properties. When we look at only 21 currently active, I could go show you if you said today, out of 1,300 listings, it's a small percentage. They also, a lot of these are legacy properties and they don't turn over very often. We have clients that have looked for 3, 4, 7, 8 years that we've helped. And when they come available, if they're priced correctly and you really want it, we have to jump on these type of properties. So we love helping people look for these properties because a lot of times they end up owning them for the rest of their lifetime. So it is super fun. And the views are beautiful. It is very, very hard to reproduce those type of views. Sunsets.
Oh, and you have to consider flooding too, especially on the Yakima.
In the Yakima, for sure. I'm glad you brought that up. I did not even have that in my notes today because we could talk 3 more shows probably about that. But yes, considering which river you're buying on and what the flood control looks like, that can be an issue for sure.
Not all of them, but some.
Yeah, because if we are worried about that on the Columbia, you and I have bigger problems.
Yeah, but the Yakima,
the Yakima naturally, yes,
because of all the runoff,
can for sure happen in that situation. If you're looking at these type of properties, go to kenmoreteam.com. We would love to help you out. Very hot out there. Stay hydrated.
Yes.
Please try to stay cool. Enjoy one of the marquee events that the Tri-Cities has to offer. And if you're hearing this show and thinking about moving here, go to kenmoreteam.com. Shoot us a message. We would love to help make that happen.